So next up, we've got Rod Amies. Rod has been in software for over 16 years. He's previously worked for the likes of Salesforce.com, SAP, and most recently, he's at Braze. He spent 11 years in the channel and partnerships before switching to direct sales 5 years ago. He's very customer-centric, become a top global performer, literally #1 at Braze. He's also a facilitator as part of the Sales Confidence membership. So every week he's facilitating, mentoring, coaching aspirational AEs that want to reach the next level. He's super sharp, and I'm super excited about this 7 minutes. Rod, over to you.
Thanks, James. Really nice to be here. Firstly, let me explain the title. To dare is to do. Firstly, I'm not a Spurs fan. That's their club motto. But the sentiment, actually starting something that's uncomfortable and stretches you is the biggest hurdle. Really resonated with me. And I don't have cool slides like Yasmin and Liam, but I'm going to share a bit about my journey and some of the key learnings I've had along the way over the next 7 minutes. So I'll start with my background. And maybe like you, I finished university not knowing what to do with my life. I bumped into a recruitment consultant at a graduate event who pitched me software, and the rest is history. And that was, as James mentioned, 16 years ago. And I had this kind of unfounded view at the time of the stereotypical salesperson, aggressive and pushy. And I'm probably the antithesis of that. I'm agreeable by nature. I'm a bit of an introvert, quite conscientious, quite orderly. And before I knew it, I was in software as a SDR, BDR, and then later became a partner manager or channel, as James mentioned, looking after tech relationships. And partnerships is really important in the world of tech as it amplifies the reach of your business. But the reality is, although it's an important job role, you're really on the periphery of sales, direct sales. So I did the partner-centric job for around 11 years, running agency partnerships, SIs, leading teams, built a career and did some cool things, had some really cool experiences. But then I was at a bit of a crossroads. It was, so picture this, it was late 2017. SAP had just acquired the scale up I was working for. And for context, my wife and I, we just had our first child. We just bought our family home, large mortgage. My wife was about to go on mat leave for a year. So my risk profile was growing significantly, and SAP were trying to keep me, again, good company, quite safe, quite solid. But I had this kind of nagging doubt. Like I really wanted to try something new and test myself. And nothing against SAP or the partner roles out there. But, I was really in my comfort zone in that respect. And I really wanted to see how far I could go beyond my comfort zone and had this kind of itch to try direct sales. So I thought to myself, it's now or never. And I had quite a few doubters actually 5 years ago that kind of said to me, direct sales, Rod, are you sure you're going to be good at that? It kind of really made me question myself. But I had this conviction to kind of learn and try something new. So fortunately, I had quite a few good years at a company called Exact Target, later Salesforce. And I built an okay reputation there with a lot of the leaders. Some of those leaders then joined a new New York headquartered business called Braze and asked me whether I wanted to join and try my hand at direct sales, starting in the enterprise segment. It was both exciting and also daunting. So back in January 2018, 5 years ago, pretty much the day, I'm now new to sales. And the tech I was selling was fairly newish to the region, and I'm focusing on the enterprise segment. And everything was a first, right? My first pricing call I was highly anxious. My first deal review internally was pretty scary. My first pitch was kind of terrifying. And looking back, I really put sales and success in sales on a pedestal. And it's a really hard job, don't get me wrong, but I probably overcomplicated it at the start. And then I started to get some successes. And then over the years, made the transition through the different segments, be it enterprise, through to strategic sales, through to global strategic sales. And I really learned a lot on the way. So a lot of people come to me who are wanting to make that transition. Perhaps they're an SMB or mid-market and they want to join enterprise to kind of round out their skill sets. And they ask me for advice. So my first bit of advice is, yes, there is a difference between SMB and enterprise sales. be it org size, be it complexity, be it length of deal cycle, but good selling fundamentals are key, irrespective of the segment you're selling into. So, some of you on the call right now may have started sales in your early 20s. I started in my early 30s in enterprise, so I had a lot of catching up to do. So I've been thinking a lot about the last few days of what it takes to close large enterprise deals and what are those learnings. I've kind of categorized my learnings into kind of 5 key areas that I consider the necessary basics. The first of which is around mindset, the mindset of closing large deals. Firstly, be patient and value your own time. Not everyone in your territory needs what your company enables. Some do, and some might need it now, and others might need it in quarters or years to come. As Liam said, use data to really help you target. But it sounds obvious, but really understanding what makes a good prospect so you're not wasting yours or the prospect's time is really important. And ultimately, you win your time back if you qualify out and focus on other projects, or you win the deal, right? Both are really valuable. And that mindset of picking your battles and being hyper-focused really, really is empowering to you as a sales executive. So if you get those, the RFP, or RFI that just doesn't feel right, be transparent with your buyers. That's the best thing for all parties. Address those concerns head on with the client's exec team or your champions. Don't be afraid to seek those assurances. Really value your own time. And ultimately, to get to that point where you're being hyper focused on the right deals and using things like 6 Sense and other systems out there to use data to identify the right projects, your discovery skills are really important. Those good discovery skills are really going to afford you the confidence to know where to invest your time. And ultimately, through my years of doing this, I think deals are won and lost in discovery. And the lens that I apply to validating whether a project feels right to me and the client is simple. I ask myself, why? Why the project? Why now? And why us? Why my tech company? And hopefully they're fairly self-explanatory. But to delve a bit deeper, firstly, why would they buy? Why the project? What is the business case to move and transact? What value will they drive from investing in your technology? These are captured and shared as usually value statements. Really, really important. These value statements have to be outcome-based, not feature-based, orientated around maybe next quarter. What is the impact of the business if they do nothing? Really delve into what inertia means. And then why buy your tech over others? Why is your business best placed to fulfill the client's requirements? And mutually aligning on these 3 whys with your client is really, really important. And then share high and wide with the client, validating as you go. And these value statements might change over time. You might have different value statements depending on the buyer profile. I've run projects where you might have 10, 15, 20, 50 stakeholders. The value proposition to marketing versus the IT team versus data might be very different. So understand those, articulate those, and then constantly reiterate the 3 whys, both internally and also to the client stakeholders. Next up is around mindset again, and it's around courage. I think the role of courage and stepping into the unknown is really an important conversation to have. It's not easy being brave. I find it quite difficult, but picking up the phone versus sending emails, handling those objections versus relying on your sales director to handle them, prioritizing deal reviews, putting yourself under the microscope, seeking that responsibility, partnering with your C-suite, your leadership team internally on projects, forcing yourself under the microscope isn't easy, especially for those out there like me that are quite agreeable by nature, but you have to do it. The fact you're in sales shows you're brave. Say yes to things, try new ideas. And ultimately, I think that's the purpose of the sales confidence community. You have no idea how great you can be, but it's really fun exploring it. The next basic, as I wrap up the last couple of points, is walk the halls. Meet people face to face as much as you can, or you feel comfortable doing so. Don't do deals over email. Selling whilst inside the client's building is much easier than selling from outside. Post lockdown and COVID, I had to remind myself this is a relationship job and we're social animals designed for interpersonal interactions. So if you work from home all the time, that's great. That's your choice. But if you decide to get out of the house occasionally and work from somewhere else, choose your client's office, go work from their cafe. You'll bump into all different types of people. I personally learn more from working from one of my clients' cafes than I do on lots of conference calls over many days. The next basic, get access to power. They really help you navigate the bumps. As deals gets larger, it might be harder to go up the chain of command and get access to the C-suite, but the higher you go, as you start to access horizontal contacts, the language changes and you have to speak their language. The CMO and the CIO, for example, might have different objectives. Understand them. If you don't know how to sell to CFOs, go to your company's CFOs, buy them a coffee and do some discovery about how they buy things. If you're valuable to your client's business, you're going to get referred. You're going to get referred in different parts of the business, and it's going to help you sell. Next, surprises are no good for either party during a deal cycle or during implementation of your technology. So be transparent and be upfront with information. Get ahead of objections early in the process and document it. I subscribe to the old adage that if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. So from very early on in the sales cycle, after every meeting, I document the actions, the next steps, share high and wide. You sell to companies, not people. Get your champions to validate the plan in writing. Plus, document every single contentious point discussed during the sales cycle and position your company's point. Ultimately, it's going to maintain momentum. It's going to build trust. It provides clear guardrails for both parties, so you don't have to course correct later on. People hate surprises. Write everything down. Share high and wide. And lastly, and I think, Liam, you spoke about this, about teamwork. It really takes a village. You might be a great salesperson because you're really technical, or you're creative, or you're really convincing. Like, good for you, but not all of us are like that. So my advice is, empower those around you. I see my job as coordinating talent around me for maximum impact. The better I do that, the better the outcome. You need to be the person that your teams, your legal, your solution consulting, your engineering team, your leadership team really want to work with, because you prep them better, you get them in front of the right people, talking about the right things at the optimal time. Do not win and lose alone. Your job is to galvanize your business around you for maximum impact. And that village expands beyond your own walls of your business. Leverage, if your company has a partner team and you work with partners on projects, work with them closely, invest time in partnerships, especially important in larger deals. So just to wrap up, key learnings, mindset is key. If you do great discovery, you'll pick your battles, focus on world-class basics, walk the halls, speak the language, write everything down, share high and wide, and ultimately your job is elevating those around you to perform their best. So with that, James, back to you.